Well, Diwali is around the corner, and besides the festive cheer, dust and smog continue to blanket Delhi as the air quality index has fallen to the very poor category. Of course, there have been various disagreements over this, and that's exactly the question that we're going to be addressing here, as we come to you live from the print newsroom. With me is my colleague Mohana, who of course covers environment and science for the print. I'm Aneesha Bedi. Mohana and I will be discussing as to why there is disagreement behind Delhi's air pollution, and is politics really hurting the fight against it? Of course, we're all aware that this has sort of led to a political tussle, Mohana. But before we get to that, just to answer the first half of the question, what is the disagreement all about? And also, just to add, we will be taking questions, so please send us some of your queries regarding this, and we'll try and answer them side by side.
Right. So, coming to why there is such a discrepancy in understanding what the source of this of the pollution is. Of course, most of the media reports concentrate on the problem of stubble burning, that is, burning of those agricultural crop residue that happens in Punjab and Haryana during the season. So, however, what happened is recently SAFAR, which is the forecasting system that comes under the Ministry of Earth and Sciences, they reported that only 10% of the pollution is coming from this stubble burning. So, which is why I think, even Kejriwal hit back saying that, if that is true, then what is the actual source? Now, the problem is that the air quality index, that is being monitored by the CPCB, right? And they only monitor the levels of pollution.
And that's, of course, the Central Pollution Control Board.
That's right. That's right. So they are only looking at what the level of pollutants are. They are not looking at the source. Right. SAFAR tries to do that. They try to, analyze the source by looking at wind conditions, by looking at satellite data. But the way they do it is just looking at how much of pollution is coming from outside Delhi and what is coming from inside Delhi. So they cannot really pinpoint on what the source of pollution is inside Delhi. So because of this, there are independent, universities that come into the picture. They try to use the data that is made public by these central, bodies to understand exactly what the source is. So over the years, since 2015, we have had many different data sets, research, and they all say very different things. So for example, there's a 2015 report which came from IIT Kanpur, which put the blame on road dust, right? And but then there was released by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So they had said that it was biomass and vehicular emissions, both were contributing 25%, around 25% each. As you can see, like there are because of the source of the data, the air quality index is the same, but the data being analyzed is through different methods. So that is what is creating the actual confusion.
Right. And also just to bring in, I think, how it's turning into a political tussle as well. You mentioned about the various studies and how, SAFAR has recently also taken out different data, which is when the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, addressed the press and said that while according to SAFAR, stubble burning had contributed 1%. After a few days, the SAFAR data mentioned that it had contributed about 10% to air pollution. So which is why Kejriwal gave out a public statement saying that, how can the statement vary so much, right? From 1% on one day to 10% on another day, then what is causing what is the reason or the source for the 99% of the air pollution? In fact, he has been going on record a couple of times, the recent, of course, being while he was addressing the climate change C40 summit in Denmark via video conference, where he said that, the air pollution had reduced by 25% in the national capital, for which, of course, the AAP-led government has been taking credit. And of course, there are critics and rebels and the opposition, retaliating, saying that can a government or a political party really be taking credit for something like this or not? And I think that is a very valid yet debatable point too. But I think the government has been taking certain measures from their side. Of course, the odd even scheme, which will be implemented from November 4th to November 15th, in a few days from now. Just to familiarize our viewers, of course, the odd even scheme is when, vehicles in Delhi, of course, those even coming from outside with odd number plates starting will be commuting on one day. And similarly, the subsequent day, there'll be, vehicles with even digit, starting with even digit numbers will be commuting. There have been certain, before I come to you, Mohana, just to also, refresh the memory of our viewers out here. Just today itself, the Chief Minister has come on record and also spoken about the exemptions that will be there, which is single women, of course, those traveling with children in school uniform, even the differently abled. In fact, he's even gone on record to say that no Delhi ministers will be exempted from this, unlike earlier. Of course, however, the Union Minister, the Vice President, the President, the Chief Justice of India and Chief Ministers of the other states will be exempted from this. The scheme will be implemented from November 4th to November 15th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that, of course, has been one. This was implemented earlier in January and April 2016, which is where, it's been debated whether the outcome has actually had a direct impact on reducing air pollution or not. And I think that's where you can come in, Mohana, because there have been several studies, and while some say that it has made a marginal difference, others disagree.
Right, like I said again, that there is no one body that is looking at just the sources, right? So we are still, most of the institutes are still guessing based on whatever methods they are using to, analyze this data that is available. Now, when you talk about odd even or these, the thing that keeps coming up is that, the amount of vehicles that are on the road remains the same throughout the year. So why is it that the pollution increases at this point of time? So that is used as the justification for saying that it must be the stubble burning. But what I should explain here is that one thing that changes is that in winters, of course, I mean, it's the weather actually that adds to the whole problem, right? So there is one parameter which is called the mixing height, right, which basically, if I explain it in like very layman terms, you have, when the warm air rises, it takes the particulate matter with it, and it takes it and disperses it, okay, in a way that it does not affect the citizens around at the ground level. But that does not happen in winter. So in winter, that dispersion does not take place. So which is why the same amount of vehicles, the same amount of emissions causes this, this toxic smog that we experience every year. So this is not something that, that any government can actually control, right? So in that case, that is where this graded action plan comes in, where you kick in these emergency sort of measures. You try to stop construction work. You try to bring in odd even. So,
but I think that's where, it's again becomes like a very complicated situation, because how many of these are actually implementable is the larger question. Like I remember the National Green Tribunal as well had ordered a couple of months ago that industries, in and around in NCR causing pollution should be shut down. And of course, I'm forgetting the exact date, pardon me, but a couple of months down the line, of course, it's not an implementable order. It's yet to see the light of the day. So I think, which is why there is, I feel like, the political parties also use it as a tool to sort of play the blame game.
Right. So again, now what we saw happen over the last 2 months, it was first Kejriwal who gave a press conference saying that, it was his party that brought in measures that brought down the pollution levels. And on the next month, we had the Minister of, Environment, Javadekar. He gave a press conference bringing out an even longer list of measures that his party brought in. So the point is that depending on which party thinks is the source of pollution, they are bringing in measures accordingly. And especially with the polls coming up, it has become a hot topic. And, environment is usually not a pollution,
it's never a priority in manifestos as
right,
well from what we've seen. In fact, as you mentioned, I think the Environment Minister as well as the Delhi Chief Minister, we saw that tussle very recently. Even, the BJP Delhi State Unit President Manoj Tiwari has been going on record and using this as a way to oppose what Mr. Kejriwal is saying, that even regarding the whole issue of stubble burning, he said that perhaps, the Aam Aadmi Party was actually, there was some satellite images, they weren't genuine, and they were using it to sort of prove that, the Aam Aadmi Party had actually had a role to play in reducing air pollution as well. So clearly, I think no one is losing their opportunity, wanting to, lose their opportunity, given that, we're only a couple of months away from the Delhi Assembly polls in February 2020. I think we have a couple of questions coming in, so I'm going to try and take those. Mohana, if you could help me with this one as well. Is stubble burning in Punjab and Haryana to blame for severe pollution levels during this time of the year? I think this is again a valid question because the Delhi government has been very frequently referring to this as an excuse.
Right. So definitely, it's not that this stubble burning is not a problem. It is a problem. It does, according to different reports, it does contribute significantly every year. And but that is not the only issue. Is what is being said by different stakeholders. So yeah, definitely, it is one of the contributors, but not the only contributor. That is what is I think coming out of all of this confusion. Right. So another question that I think I'll just follow up with that is what is the government doing about availability of the green crackers? Right. So that is something that that the center is brought out this year. So CSIR in fact has developed these green crackers which are supposed to bring down the emission of SO2 and nitrogen oxides. These are supposed to be the pollutants that are most harmful. So to combat that extra push of pollution that comes during Diwali, these green crackers are in the market. But the Harshvardhan actually later went on to say that it would be better if no one used crackers at all. So yeah.
Similarly, I think someone's also asked about how the National Green Tribunal ordered industries be shut, causing pollution, and nothing was implemented. Isn't all of this futile? Well, I just referred to that a while back, and that's true. The order never saw the light of the day. So I think, some of the orders, have been unimplementable because you really can't, especially in a place like Delhi, you really can't have some of these, industries, closing the door or whatever. Apurva has a question on what are some of the other measures that the Delhi government is planning to take to tackle pollution. Well, as I mentioned, of course, odd even policy or the scheme in Delhi continues to be, the priority for the Aam Aadmi Party-led government. Several other things, especially with Diwali around the corner, they've already started distributing masks as well. I think they started a drive in government schools. They're also organizing a laser show where Arvind Kejriwal is calling it, the collective Diwali, which citizens of Delhi and others, visiting the national capital should be celebrating, so that you're not really indulging in the crackers that, generate pollution per se. Before that, of course, they've also put a ban on these power generators, which are a major cause of pollution. One in Rajghat and Badarpur was shut down, and in fact, that's one of the reasons they said that was a major contributor to reducing air pollution in New Delhi. Other than that, interestingly, even the express, the eastern and the western expressways, while Centre has been taking credit, saying that has, in turn reduced the inflow of trucks in Delhi, which is also sort of course, as we all know, vehicular pollution continues to be the dominant contributor to air pollution. And with inflow of trucks having reduced, they say that that's one of the reasons how they've been able to contribute to reducing pollution in Delhi, where similarly, it's interesting that even the Delhi government has been taking credit for the same thing. So I think this sort of culminates how the tussle continues. I think whether we say blame game or credit game is something that time will tell us. However, I think,
I think, at the end of it, it's the citizens of Delhi who actually benefit if, in fact, this trying to take credit turns into action on the ground level. So if that happens, then, it's good that it's becoming a poll issue.
Yeah, that's true. I think ultimately it's the people of Delhi and those, who have to actually intake this kind of air. If they can have any sort of benefit, then perhaps the political tussle actually might not dilute the issue. Do keep watching this space for more such updates. We will keep bringing you many more stories on the air quality in Delhi. This is Mohana from ThePrint, and I'm Aneesha. Thanks for watching.